Welcome to BARI Banter, where we talk everything bariatric surgery with the people that know it best, the patients. I'm Shannon, and I'm here with my co-hostess with the mostest,
Lita. So sit back, relax, and remember, sip, sip, sip.
Well, welcome back to another episode of BARI Banter in another random location.
Another random
It's kind of
location.
how we roll these days.
It's
That's
not
like two
even
from
because
three.
we're with a special guest. Well, we are with a special guest, but it's not even because
Like
we're
we had to go
like
to a guest?
Yeah, it was just because
We just gallivant now?
Yeah, we're just hotel living.
Hotel living. Yeah, we're in Brisbane.
Hotel, motel, holiday. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so we're in Brisbane.
Jeez, awkward turtle. But we are in Brisbane because obviously with the work, I work all over the place, and this week I'm in Brisbane, and Alita was like, I'm going to come too. So yeah, it's nice to have you down here.
Yeah, so I'm staying down in Brisbane.
You're a lot more organised than I am. Like you actually there's like proper food in the fridge. It's great.
You have a microwave, so I cooked you some green curry.
Yeah, delicious. Speaking of which, not even speaking of which, I have a semen story.
Green curry,
how we got
semen. Good segue.
So yeah, as we talked about in past podcasts, I had to go do the IVF stuff. I have to do the semen side of things, and was that a story? And I thought I would share it because it was funny now that I look back, embarrassing at the time. So yeah, I had to take the semen in, like you do. You do into the little plastic tub, and then you take it into the.
What did you take it in though? Like they didn't supply you with a brown paper bag, so I rummaged through the kitchen and I found last week's mushroom container, brown paper bag,
and then we put it in that because I didn't obviously just want to walk around with a little plastic tub full of that good stuff. So I've taken it into where I thought I had to take it, but then it ends up that wasn't where I had to take it. So then I had to take it to another place in Maroochydore, which is another 10 minutes away. Bear in mind, they give you a time limit with this stuff.
45 minutes.
45 minutes to get that sample to the place. Ends up being a lab. Wasn't where I thought it was. But yes, 45 minutes until it's just a dud sample and they can't use it because it doesn't give an accurate reading. So I've gone to the next place and there's a thing on the door saying closed due to COVID. I was like, wow, okay, that's inconvenient. Where's the nearest place? It was like another 10 minutes down the road. As I'm driving to this next place, I'm thinking in my head, if I get pulled over by police, they're going to ask me, why were you speeding? And I'm going to be like, well, I have a semen sample in the seat next to me. And I really
baby on board. Baby on board.
Baby on board. Like, that would be really embarrassing. Anyway, I got to the next place, sign on the door, closed due to 6 staff members. I'm like, wow, what are the chances? I end up calling the last place that I thought I was supposed to take it to. And they're like, yes, we're open. I said, yeah, I've just got a sample. I've got to drop it off. I've got to be there in like 5 minutes. And then like, what kind of sample is it? And I'm like, oh, God, this is embarrassing. Semen. And then she's like, no, you don't bring it to me. And I was like, what? Where do I take it? And then she's like, oh, you got to take it to the lab. It's like over behind Budrum Hospital and blah, blah. And I was like, okay. So we had to take it to the QML, like actual.
At my
lab,
work.
At your work, yeah. And I ended up making my mad dash over there. I got there probably an hour after the sample was originally, so I was late in the first place.
15 minutes late.
And then I
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Keep on going.
And then I walk on in. And they give me this little form, this little piece of paper, and it's like got the most random questions on it. Questions that humans don't usually talk about to each other.
When was the last time you ejaculated?
The one, literally, it was the last time before this time you last ejaculated. And I was like, 2 days. And then they were like, oh, we usually recommend 3. And I'm like, well, it's done now. It's here. So, it's not like I could put it back in. They come back in 24 hours. And then it was like, did you miss at all? Like, or dribble down the side? And I'm like, what the hell? No, I don't think I did. And like other questions like that. And I was like, wow. And like literally I walked out of the QML, like after putting it in there, it cost like $22, whatever it was, to put that sample in, thinking in my head, I'm going to have to do that again because that's a dud, all in dud, that one. And then I get a message off a leader saying, long line? Like, was there a long line?
Because you literally, the place that I thought you were going to, the first place that you went to is literally like 3 minutes down the road from where we
I was
live.
like, I'll get there in 45 minutes. No problem. What are you talking about? And then I like called it. I said, wow, talk about making an embarrassing thing more embarrassing. Like more like I was like red by the end of it, especially when like I took the brown bag and she takes it out of the brown bag and just holds it up in front of me and looks in it, and I'm like, wow,
swirls it around,
really,
opens it up, gives it a sniff.
Yeah, it's not something you usually share with other people, and
strangers.
Yeah, I don't know. But
I'm really interested to see how you segue from this story into our...
So, speaking of semen, she used to be a sailor, I'm sure.
Not at all. We've got zero segue.
No, zero segue.
She's probably sitting behind the scenes at the moment, just like trying so hard not to be like pissing herself laughing.
Yeah,
so.
She doesn't drop in with the semen joke here. I tell you,
You've got time. So tonight's guest is fresh off the operating table from being bypassed in January this year with the heaviest recorded weight of 168.7 kilos and a goal to be as healthy as she possibly can be. Please welcome tonight's guest. I'm just waiting for Shannon to get the image up on the screen. Technical difficulties because we're away from location. Please welcome tonight's guest, Amy, also known as changing_Amy86 on Instagram. Hey!
Hey guys.
Hey, I'm back. Okay. Whew, okay, this is like usually I can see your face and I know it's up, and then like I just had a moment of like, because even the camera, usually we have that turned around so we can see what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's just all new. It's all new, Amy. So Amy, welcome. Welcome to Barry Banter.
I think I have listened to every episode and there's never been a bit of a banter before someone quite like that. So I feel a bit special, I think, that you guys are comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
You've come on a journey with us.
Yeah. No, I think as this goes on and on, I just feel like the stories are just getting a little bit like, that's a story maybe you don't share.
Shannon's become a lot more open with how much he's sharing with people. Like, it started off with so we're going to have a baby and we're going to go to the fertility clinic. And now it's like, so I just took my semen around the whole of the Sunshine Coast. We wanted a bit of a road trip.
I'm just getting the kids ready. I am going to be one of those dads who takes them on road trips. I'm just setting them up early, getting them used to it.
And I was seriously trying to Google a joke, but I've come up without any good, so I do apologise.
It's okay. Well, you can work on it, message it to us later. We're fine with that.
I'll do a post after this episode comes out and be like, Amy's joke finally came through and she says this.
Oh, I'm sure you come with some good ones. So Amy, you're only 2 months.
3 months. 4 months.
4 months. Oh, wow, that's flown by. Because obviously we talk on Instagram quite a bit. Yeah, I actually had a look before, and you might have only just had surgery, but you have been around the weight loss community for quite a while, because I think it was over a year ago now that we originally first started talking.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Yeah, did that play a part in why you ended up making the decision to go down this avenue?
Partly. I think if I sort of backtrack to way back before, I went to my GP probably close to 3 years ago, maybe a bit longer. And he was like, look, I want you to consider weight loss surgery. And I was like, what are you talking about? Don't even come in with that sort of stuff. And I just dismissed it, I guess. He said, look into private health, or you can use your super, but, look into private health, you've got time. And then I just never really gave it a second thought. And then time sort of went on and I had my second child. And then, so June 2019, 18. Well, how many years is it? It's 2021. Yeah, so June 2018, sorry, is when it all began, really. I started a 12-week Biggest Loser competition with the local gym, and you had to actually apply to be part of the program. So I was at a point in my life where I sort of felt that I'd hit rock bottom. That was my heaviest recorded weight, was the 168.7. And, my daughter was probably 5 months, nearly 6 months old at the time. Everyone was in bed and I saw this, post come up from the gym on Facebook, and I was like, well, it's now or never, I need to make this change. I'm a mum to 2 kids, and sitting on the couch by myself at night time eating ice cream isn't solving my problem. So
usually adds to it. Yeah, it's usually
yeah. I figure, yeah.
So this is the 12-week challenge you were contemplating at that time. That was that was the change you were wanting to make.
I had to apply for it because it was basically the owners of the gym were running this program, and you had to sort of prove, I guess, why you were going to be so invested in it and wanted to do it.
Because I
I
have some money to
applied.
spend, and do you want it or not?
So did they only
Well, there was
accept a certain
prizes.
amount of people into that 12-week challenge? Yeah.
So it was limited. It was capped. It was meant to be capped at 12 people, but they ended up expanding it to 24 people. And there was a prize at the end. I think it was $500 maybe, or maybe $1,000. There was a prize at the end of it. I don't remember what it was now. Or it was it was 5 years free membership. I think it was at the gym.
Whoa.
Yeah. Did you?
Which was pretty
How
cool.
did you end up going in it?
Well, so I got in, and then during that 12 weeks, I remember the first night at training, and I was just like, they're going to kill me. Like, they're absolutely going to kill me, because I was laying down and one of the PTs was like, get up, you have to keep moving. I'm like, oh no, I can't breathe. Like, I absolutely cannot breathe right now, and I'm going to die. And he was like, no, get up, keep walking. And I was just like, oh my goodness, I can't do this for 12 weeks. But so in that first 12 weeks, I lost just under 19 kilos,
Wow. Nice.
which was huge because for someone that had never sort of been able to lose that weight so quickly before, I guess. And it was, I was working very hard during that 12 weeks, but just changing my diet and, being a lot more physically active.
Did you keep it going after that 12-week challenge? Was it something? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. So then I was still going to the gym. I ended up having one of the PTs contact me, and he said, let's keep this going. Do you want to keep this going? I was like, yep, sure. So then sort of fast forward until about June 2019, I think I'd hit probably a 40 or 50 kilo loss by then.
Whoa.
I think it might have been 40 actually. And then my nan unfortunately got really unwell quite quickly. And she passed away. So during that time when she was in hospital and things like that, my diet, my nutrition flew out the window. I was still going to gym to keep me sane, but nutrition flew out the window. So then I ended up regaining about 12 or 13 kilos, I think.
Yeah.
Then I ended up I still had my PT, and then I had an online coach as well, just to kick my butt and keep me a bit more accountable. And then by I think it was April 2020, sorry. I'm so lost with years. April last year, I think I'd hit the 60 kilo loss on my own with the help of obviously my mentor and my PT. And then unfortunately my marriage broke down.
Mm-hmm.
COVID hit. So I was all of a sudden going from working full time in the office to being sent home with a laptop and a phone, and, as if a lot of people were, do your job from home, make it work. But I also had 2 kids in that process as well to take care of, and, homeschool one. I was still fortunate that my daughter could go to daycare in the beginning before they shut it down for that little bit, but then it was near impossible, so I had to keep sending her just to make life a bit easier. But I stopped caring about me, essentially. Like, it was about surviving and making life work as it had changed. I couldn't go to the gym because the gyms were closed, obviously, down in Victoria. I was doing online stuff with my PT for a little bit, but because my finances changed quite dramatically, that went out the window. I couldn't afford it anymore. And then it was about surviving at the end of the day, not about living anymore, I guess.
Yeah. So that was last year. There's just been COVID kicked off. So
you've done quite the big roller coaster then, really, by the sounds of it. Like, you were sort of, you had your success from the 12-week challenge. You managed to lose the 60 kilos, but then in a very short period of time, you gained it all back again. Is that correct?
I gained probably 35 kilos back, I think it was. I'm not sure that's the exact numbers. But yeah, I gained a lot of weight back probably within from June, or probably from May, I guess. And it started going back on in May.
Yep.
And right through to sort of December. So, 6 or 7 months I'd piled that back on. So it was very quick, and nobody was forcing me to eat or stop exercising. I made those choices on my own. So, at the end of the day, it was about just making sure I was surviving and showing up for the kids.
What made you jump on the weight loss surgery?
I was really frustrated. Like, for me, when I was going to the gym, I was going 6 days a week, and I absolutely, it was my thing. Like, it was my time just for me. Nobody could annoy me. Nobody could be yelling out mum all the time, or, you know, can you do this? Can you do that? It was purely about me, which is why I loved it so much. And
It was your you time.
it was my downtime. So, I was basically, when I knew that I was putting on weight, and I was too scared to get on the scales to see how much damage it actually done. And then I was sick of thinking about food. Like, I was back in that headspace of, what am I going to have for breakfast when I wake up? And then I'd get to breakfast and be like, oh, what's for lunch and dinner? What snacks am I having today? And it was just that consistent thought of food all the time, and the consistent dreaded feeling of, I'm not doing what I should be doing, and I know how to fix this, but I actually can't fix this myself at the moment. So I was seeing someone in terms of, like, a counsellor type person for my mental health, like, as well on the side. So I was sort of addressing those things, but I needed to, you know, do a bit more into it to sort of help myself. But I remember I was sitting pretty much exactly where I am now, and I was just having one of those moments, and I was like, you know what, I am so done. Like, I am 100% done doing this on my own. Like, I can't do it on my own anymore, and I need help. Like, I know I need help to finish what I've started. And I sort of realised then, and I remember I messaged my mum, and I just said, I'm done. Like, I can't keep doing this, and I can't keep torturing myself by doing this. It's not okay, and it's not healthy. And yeah, she was kind of like, look, I don't think you should. Like, let's try ABC. And I was like, Mum, we both know I have tried everything in the book, and something you've been stuck not in the book, you know. And basically, I said to Mum, look, this is my addiction. Food is my addiction, and, you know, my mum's a smoker, and I said to her, if you could have surgery as a tool to stop you from smoking and help you stop smoking, I know that that's an opportunity that you'd take. And for me, that's what this is going to do. So, and she was sort of like, oh, okay,
That makes sense.
Realise.
Yeah.
I didn't realise it was that bad for you. And I think just because of, you know, any surgery has its risks and things like that. And unfortunately, my sister, she's 14 years younger than me, so she's only just turned 21. She got really unwell October, November last year, and she actually had a 30 centimetre tumour growing on her ovary. And it was quite a scary time, and there was a point there we didn't actually know what was going to happen or anything like that. So I think that happening so quickly, and, you know, my sister's very healthy and she's very, very fortunate, but then for us to go through that, and then for me to turn around and say, I'm actually volunteering to put myself under surgery to help fix me. Mum was quite stressed in that sort of situation and was obviously worried, but she came to the surgeon's appointment with me, and he won her over, which was good. So, yeah, basically from that night, making the decision that that's what I was doing, I saw my GP that week, and then I was booked in to see the surgeon. I think it was like the 4th or the 5th of December, and that was it. I was under the knife a month after that. So it was a very quick process once I'd made that decision.
Wow. You mentioned something earlier, like at the beginning of that little conversation, about saying that you knew what you had to do in order to change your life, which I think that a lot of us have been in that same situation. Like, we all knew what we had to do, but it's
absolutely.
so much easier said than done. And like, if it was so easy to just, you know, eat the right foods and do the right amount of exercise and, you know, not drink the wine and don't eat the twisties and all those sorts of things, you know, it would be so easy.
Yeah, and there wouldn't be an obesity problem.
100%.
And that's, you know, and I know that people sort of think, well, just stop eating. Well, okay, thanks, mate. I'd love to, but it's actually part of it. It's not as easy as shut your mouth and don't eat. It's so much, so much deeper than that. And at 100%, nobody's forcing that food down my throat. Like, I take full acknowledgement for that, and it's all part of it, though. You know, it's the same as saying to someone, "Well, just stop smoking, or just stop drinking, or just stop taking drugs." it doesn't work like that.
Food addiction is definitely the hardest addiction because it's something. It's not like speed or where you don't have to have it every day. Like food is one of those things where you have to have it every day to survive. So it's kind of like imagine going up to a speed addict and being like, you've got to quit. You're quitting, but you have to have just a little bit each day. Just a little bit each day.
But you have to make sure you choose
That's it, just
the
a little
right
bit.
thing.
Like you got to control it. You can't have more than this little bit here.
But you can't eat that food. You can only eat this food because that food is bad for you, but this food is good for you. And it's very hard.
It's a hard addiction. And definitely that makes it a lot harder to break. You said before with your mum, she obviously found it hard to process you making this decision. Was everyone else, in your family and close friends accepting of it?
Yeah. So I'm shocking on Instagram. Like I think it's there half the time. So I'm probably obviously not as involved, I guess, in terms of publicly with the weight loss community as what you guys are. But I sort of put a post up after I had the surgery because I'm 110% more than happy to be open about it. Like I don't have anything to hide. But obviously, like work knew, like my managers knew, my best friend knew, my partner knew, and I don't, like there's a few people that knew, but I didn't really be like, hey, this is what I'm doing. It's just sort of more that mum told, I guess, my auntie and uncles that's what was happening just for support for her, I guess, more than anything. And I think they were sort of a bit like, oh, geez, this is really what you're going to be doing. But again, they sort of understood that I've obviously come to this decision for a reason and it's not been one that I've taken lightly. And I'm fortunate in that, my partner's very supportive in that space. So, and, my best friend, she's had a sleeve as well. So I knew what I was sort of in for, but I didn't because my surgeon he said I could have either. And I was like, oh, just don't do that. Just pick one. Like, what one do you think I should have sort of thing? So, he booked me in for a bypass and that was like, we booked me in for a bypass, so that's what we're doing. So, I was very fortunate that I had a small but supportive group around me. And I think that there was probably some people that might have been a bit skeptical if I had sort of had that conversation before. But once it's done, it's done. It's my choice completely, and I wouldn't have changed my mind regardless. So, yeah.
So you mentioned before you went the bypass. Was there reasons for you going the bypass? Or
yeah, why did he book you in for the bypass?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. Like, I was sitting in his office because I was like, yep, having the sleeve. That's what I'd sort of made my mind up on. Like, I'd done a lot of research into both of them, and the reason why I didn't want the bypass is because of, I guess, the malabsorption type, malnutritional type thing with the bypass, and that concerned me. And then the dumping concerned me because I was like, what if I'm out in the shops or something and, you got to go. But, and also because I was absolutely petrified of not waking up. That was my biggest fear going into it. Not the fact that I'd have complications afterwards, but that I wasn't waking up. And because the bypass is a longer operation as well, so I was like, no, I'm not having that. And then I guess the more he spoke to me about it during the consult that I had with him, he was very reassuring. And he said because my BMI wasn't high enough to say, yep, you're definitely having a bypass. He sort of just said, I do well on either. So we booked in for the bypass and he said, you can tell me the day of surgery if you want to change it. So day of surgery sort of came and he came and saw me just before I went in, and I just said, what are we doing? And he was like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, you're the surgeon, so you tell me.
The day of surgery. So the day of surgery, he's still like, which one do you want to go?
Yeah, he was like, we booked in for a bypass, but, do you want to change? And I was like, look, just make sure you do something.
Hang on, are you sure that we're operating on my stomach now? Yeah. Like, do you know where we're going and what we're doing?
Sleeve or bypass? You're like, no, boob job, tummy tuck, and a gastro. No, I completely just changed it. I just
said, look, I trust you, and we're here to do this. So if you get in there and you feel that one's better than the other, then take this as my consent. Essentially, that's fine. Just make sure you do something.
You like playing Russian roulette.
Russian roulette,
or like you just kind of like you wake up and you go, so bypass
I think
leave?
it was,
What did I end up
it was
with?
a bit, it was such a strange space because like I'd all but, the anaesthetist came in to see me when I was in that, that middle room you sort of go in before you go into theatre, like the actual theatre itself. And I think she'd given me some happy drugs at that point, and that's when the surgeon came and saw me. So I was like, yeah, just do what you want. Like, just do something. But so I was pretty well on my way to being happy at that point in time. So
You wake up afterwards, he goes, so the good news is that your stomach is in really good condition, but I took your appendix out instead. So
Yeah, I was confused on what I was doing, so I just
I just didn't know what I So have you had any complications with the bypass since you've had it done? Like you're still very fresh in the piece. Have
Any
you had
dumping
or
I did. I had dumping once, and I don't wish that upon anybody. That was quite traumatic. And how, I don't know, on a big night out, you just feel that unwell, and you know that if you have a good spew, you'll feel so much better.
Yep.
And I was waiting for, because I just felt that physically unwell. Like I had the cold sweats, I had the hot sweats, I had the hot and cold flushes, I was shaking, I was dizzy, and I was convinced I was seeing stars, and I was, and I was like, right,
kind of stars, Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, or no? Oh, the other ones. Okay, sorry.
But I was just, and then, you're sort of trying to convince yourself that, yep, you got to do it. And it just was this like little blip that came out, and I was like, where's the rest of it? Like, that's it? I've just been through all these horrific like symptoms, and that was it. And I had to go and have a nap afterwards. I was just exhausted. So that's the only really bad thing that I've had.
And what was it that triggered you for that dumping?
I hate the Ritz crackers, like the really soft ones.
Yep.
I had them, like a couple of those with like a little bit of dip, and I'm assuming it was a dip because I've been able to have the crackers since, so no dip for me. But yeah, and then I don't remember waking up in recovery. I had no idea. I had no idea where I was. But then the next day, like I remember the nurses were like, you just keep drinking, because they offered me like jelly and yogurt and everything, like basically day one, and I was like, oh, I just want water, thanks. And then I was in a bit of pain on the day after, and then the next day I started to feel a bit more human again. But yeah, no, like touch wood, no complications. Like I did get unwell, but I had to have some antibiotics, and they didn't agree with my body whatsoever. Like I wasn't in a great state for a couple of days when I had to have antibiotics. But apart from that, I've been fortunate, I guess, in that I've been really lucky. Like I've had no pain that, and no signs of any complications, which is really positive. So yeah.
Just to clarify, I'm not laughing because you got sick and needed antibiotics. I'm laughing because I read your form and you were like, I was like, I thought that I was dying and the doctor was wrong, and I was definitely like knocking on heaven's door. But then it turned out that it was fine. I was all good. So that was just the way that you wrote it. It was so
the doctor knew what he was talking
the way
about.
that you wrote it in your form. It was just so. And I was like, I felt like I was reading like a bestseller, and I was like, oh my God, what is going to happen? And I was like, surely. And then you're like, no, the doctor was right. I was fine. And I was like, oh,
worst cliffhanger ever.
And I was convinced, I was like, this is not normal. And I thought I was dumping, and I was like, no, 12 hours of dumping is not normal. I was on the phone to the surgeon's office, and I was like, you've got to get him to call me. I was telling her everything was going on. She's like, yep, I'll definitely make sure he calls. And she probably got off the phone like laughing her head off at me. And then because it happened again like a few days later, and I was like, oh, there's something wrong. Like, this is it. I just want to be back to normal. Why did I do this to myself? And then I was too scared to eat because I was like, oh, geez, what if I have to, sit on the toilet again for 12 hours? Like, that's not ideal for anybody. And yeah, no. And then I saw my GP as well. He's like, have you stopped taking the antibiotics? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, you'll be fine. And then the surgeon rang and he's like, look, I'm pretty sure it's just the antibiotics, but, call me back otherwise. And I was like, oh, okay, everybody's all right. That's fine. But yeah, so apart from that.
So you grew up in a pretty small rural town. And you said in the form that you filled out that, like, you would always be at the supermarket, and even though it was mainly like, your insecurities in your head, that people were judging you and all that sort of thing. Like, are you a proud bypasser now? Like, do you tell
You're
people?
proud bypasser.
Oh, I don't have a T-shirt that says "have been bypassed," but it's quite funny actually. I was at a birthday party this afternoon, and we were talking, and we were just some surgery came up for one reason or another, and it's I don't think they knew, but it was kind of, I don't know, it was kind of like there was a couple of questions, and I was like, oh, I've had a bypass, that's why I know so much about the process. So, and I'm like, oh, and I was just like, yeah, I wasn't ashamed or anything like that, but it was, yeah, I think it's just the sort of, sometimes it's almost that that when you tell someone information like that, it's that first reaction on their face is, I guess, what you sort of like, oh, what are they really thinking, but what does their face show? Things. So, yeah, look, a lot of the people within the community that I guess I've got links to from the gym and things like that, they know. Because I'm at the supermarket at, Saturday morning first thing, or 8 o'clock at night, so I don't actually see that many people. I'm quite isolated, I guess. But yeah, like I'm more than happy to share my story and more than happy to tell people I've had it, and if anyone has questions, then I'm more than happy to share that. Like I don't hide it, but like at the same time, I'm not I've had bypass.
It's funny though, because on last week's episode, Nick was like, obviously, and you sort of said it at the beginning of this episode too, like that you're not necessarily an advocate for weight loss surgery. And both of you said like what Shannon and I are. And it's funny because I still have those moments where if I'm talking to somebody who doesn't necessarily know, because like I'm 3 years out now, both Shannon and I are 3 years out. So people who have only met us in the last year or so might not actually know that that's where we came from. And there's certain people, especially in some of the running groups that I go to and stuff, you'd be like, oh yeah, like 3 years ago I was 60 kilos heavier than what I am now. And they're like, oh my God, amazing. How did you do that? Blah, blah, blah. And then like there is that sort of hesitation to be kind of like, oh yeah, no, like, so I had weight loss surgery, and there's always that kind of like my heart, every single time I tell somebody new, my heart stops for that split second because you don't know how they're going to respond to it. But then I always say to people that my first 30 kilos that I lost was 100% down to the fact that the sleeve was helping me. I didn't obsess over going to the gym. I wasn't a runner then. I was making good, healthy choices, but I wasn't, it was just, and for lack of better words, it was quite easy, even though it was the hardest decision and hardest process of my life. But then the second 30 kilos that I lost 100% came down to my lifestyle and the food that I was eating and the fact that I was running every day. And, like I've stopped running every day now, and it started to, not that I'm gaining weight, but it started to sort of, running every day makes a hell of an impact on your body and on your lifestyle and on your weight and on everything. So like the sleeve or the bypass is definitely a tool, and it helps you get to where you need to be in order to continue. Like
it's definitely a tool. Like, did you not, I showed a little of that Facebook post the other day. Someone posted how they've regained all their weight, and they're like, has anyone else? And there was like 380 comments or something on it. And I was like, wow, like that's a lot of comments. Like, and it was just constantly, the whole feed was, oh, I have regained half. I've regained, so that right there is a sign that it's a tool. It's not, yes, it may help you at the start, but eventually you're on your own. Because if it was a magic wand, no one would regain. No one would regain. If it was magic and it was just like the solution to everyone's weight, issues, then no one would regain. But for 360, I think it was 362 comments on a feed, and majority of them were like, I've regained all my weight. Yeah.
And I think it was it Nick's episode last week, Shannon, that you said like 50% of people will regain. But those, and I posted a couple of questions in those Facebook support type groups, but I can't look at them most days because I just find myself comparing, and I just think, no, stop it, you don't need to do that. Or I find myself getting frustrated with the comments or the posts that are on there because I just think, oh my goodness, it just feels so evident that it's not happening for the right reasons and they're not ready. I don't know. I do my best to stay away from those pay. Just
I
Well,
think it comes a lot down to accountability too, though. People regain it. It's what happens, but it's the people for 360 people to be like, I regained because COVID happened. I regained because I don't know the excuses.
No, I scrolled through it because I was looking for someone who was just open and honest about like an accurate, like, you know, they were just owning it. They were like, this is what happened, because I wanted to message them and be like, hey, do you want to come on Barry Banter, like, and talk about it? But a lot of the comments were like, I just felt my hunger come back, and, you know, and then this happened, and then all the weight came back on. And I'm like, I get that. We go through tough times, and we are emotional eaters. A lot of us are emotional eaters. But it's also like, you know, if I'm gaining weight, I now would be like, you know, I'm gaining weight because I'm eating too much. I'm not exercising enough.
I'm drinking too much
alcohol. They're the reasons that we do it. I understand, like, some situations are harder, like when you're a parent and you have kids, or, you know, you lose a loved one, you're going to go through a patch of hard time. You're going to go through a period of hard time where you go back to the vices that help you. But there comes a point where it's like, you have to be like, okay, you know, does this mean enough to me to kind of like try and pull it back? Yeah. So that was my thing, was like, I was reading through them and I'm like, there was no comments that I read that were just like, oh yeah, I regained on my weight because I let the old habits creep back in, and eventually it just got back on top of me.
But that's why I keep on reiterating at the moment, though, that like I know the reason why I'm not at my bottom weight anymore, because I have stopped running quite as much. I probably am drinking more than what I was. There's a bloody packet of twisties sitting to the right of me right now that is literally sitting there going like, eat me, and I'm doing everything in my power not to eat them. Like,
I didn't hear that. Did they say that?
Thanks, Kia. Thank Leisha for like buying me a bottle of wine and some twisties, because like now it's here and I have to eat it. But like,
they'll be going in the bin.
It comes down to they will not. The bin is my mouth, but but it comes down to like accountability. Unless you're willing to work with your mental, then it's not going to work.
100%. And I think that like, I know that you touched on it a few, like you guys have touched on it a few times in the episodes, but, you know, and that's more the reason why you guys, I guess, or more so Shannon, went sleeve versus bypass. And because, and I know, you know, you see people say, oh, you just have a revision to bypass. It's, you know, just do that instead. And I was like, well, hang on a minute. For me, I don't want to go into surgery thinking I can just have a revision to bypass. That's not how it works. And I know that some people have the thought with the bypass, you can just have it reversed. But I never went into it in that headspace. For me, if I was having a sleeve, and there's no revision. It has to work.
Yeah.
You're not going to bypass unless you've got chronic reflux, or you're that physically unwell that you have to have a revision, you know, for those medical reasons. And the same with the bypass. I'm not having a bypass to have it reversed in 4 or 5 years' time. I'm having a bypass to essentially save my life.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like, cause there is there's that option to have it reversed, but bypass has a lot of good things too. And I know we sometimes, like, because obviously we both had sleeves, we speak from a very sleeve-based kind of perspective on things. But bypass, because it has the malnutrition where it bypasses a certain part of the small intestine, it's going to have better success rates long term, because it's not just, you know, a sleeve that's reducing the amount you can eat, which eventually we can all become kind of adapted to the feeling of that uncomfortable feeling, and then slowly increase the amount we can eat. Where with the bypass, clearly, because it's bypassing that part of the small intestine, it's not absorbing as much fat. It's not absorbing as much, you know, and that's how you're getting the results that you are. So because it was originally weight loss surgery was meant to be a 2-step process. It was meant to be sleeve and then bypass. Like, that was meant to be a 2-step process, but then they started realizing they were getting good results from the sleeve. So they just made it like a optional, you know, you can just have the sleeve, or you can have the bypass, or you can skip the sleeve and go straight to the bypass. So yeah, you know, they both come with their pros and cons. It's just for some people like Alita and I, you know, we didn't want to have that option, an out option, because we are, you know, self-sabotagers.
And I completely, like, I get it. Like, I completely get the reasons for that, because I was of the same thing, like, cut my stomach out and take it away. Like, that's what you're doing. But it was only because I spoke to the surgeon and we went down the bypass route. But at no point, for me, like, there was that no there was no thought of I'll just get it reversed in 5 years if I need to sort of thing. Like it was, if I'm doing this, I'm committing to whatever procedure I'm having. There's there's no revising anything. It is what it is, and that's what we're doing. So, I think, I think if people are going into the sleeve and having the mindset of I'll just have a revision, or it's not, they're not ready. And I'm a big advocate for people that are having surgery that you have to be ready, because I wasn't ready when my when my GP suggested it 3 or 4 years ago. I wasn't having a bar of it. And then even losing that, 60 kilos, like losing that on my own. And then I was like, all right, I don't need surgery. But then, I did. And that's what I've done.
What lessons did you take away from, obviously, regaining?
Can I just jump in before you ask that question, though? Because I think it's really important to point out to people who are thinking about having surgery that the revision, you can't just undo the bypass. It's not an easy procedure. You can't just go in. It's not like so we're talking about the fact that you can,
plumbing under a sink.
Yeah, you can't just change your mind and go, oh, actually, you know what? I regret my decision and I want to unwire everything you've done.
It's not like the band where you can just go back in and take all the fluid.
100, because I asked that to my surgeon going into it, and I was like, oh, but I've heard that the bypass is reversible, and he was like, you would need a bloody good excuse, a very valid reason for me to go back in and reverse the procedure that I have done for you. So like people who are thinking tossing up between the sleeve and the bypass, like I'm not saying one's better than the other at all, but you can't go into it thinking that the bypass, it's fine, it's reversible. Like, if I'm not happy with it in a year's time, I'll just go back to the way things were, because that's not how it happens. Yeah. Like it's a massive procedure for you to get it reversed. I just wanted to point that out because it was something that, I don't know, a few people kind of get, it is out there. The bypass is reversible. It is. But you would need a very valid reason to reverse it.
I just know how I felt when I don't wake up well from general anaesthetic, and no more surgery. I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, I'm the same. That's one of the reasons I don't want to do the skins and stuff.
I don't need to. I need to have I'm good the way I am now. Thank you.
So like what I was saying before with the when you obviously you've lost a lot of weight, you've went through the processes, did you learn what it was that helped you lose the weight that you lost that made it come back? Like, is it the routine that is a big thing for you? Is it like, what lessons did you take away from that?
So I spent a lot of time, my nutrition was a huge focus. Like I worked with my online coach and my PT, I did a lot of work on nutrition, and I was counting calories every day. I was, every meal, everything that went in my mouth was logged. And I knew exactly what I was eating. I knew exactly how much energy I had left. I knew exactly how many calories I had for the rest of the day. And I was training every 6 days a week. So I, stopped exercising and I stopped eating right. That's my weight. That's why my weight piled back on. It wasn't because I, ate a couple of packets of Risties. It's not because I skipped a couple of days of training. It's because I stopped training and I stopped eating right for my body. So, there's been a lot of reflection for me on that. And I'm not going to lie, I'd still sniff out a packet of Twisties in an instant. But knowing that I can have one Twistie versus a whole bag of Twisties, that's, I physically can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And I did that physical intervention of, yes, you can have, foods, those type of foods in moderation, and, but you need to keep fueling your body with those.
You need to be mindful of it. And I think that's it. It's like you can't, mindfully eat it. What is he doing?
Mindful eating.
Mindful eating.
Yeah, but it's like when you don't, you just consume without the thought of what it means. Because like the amount of times in the past, that was my biggest thing. Like I could eat without even thinking about what I was eating.
Yeah.
So like I could just without thinking oh crap, I just ate a lot of empty calories.
And I spoke to my dietitian a lot around it, and I explained, the process that I was doing and everything like that. And she, she'd only met me in the first 10 minutes, and she said, you're an all or nothing person, and we need to work on being a balanced person. So, and she was 100% right. You know, when I was training and fueling my body with the right foods, breakfast would be the same every day. Lunch was pretty much the same every day, and dinner was the same every day. I had my meals planned out 7 days a week because for me, that routine of knowing what I'm eating took the thought process out of it. I didn't have to think about the foods that I wanted to eat and that would start the ball rolling again of, oh, I'll just skip this day and I'll eat this today sort of thing. So it was very methodical.
That's funny because, like, I could see a leader out of the corner of my eye when you were saying that because we've had this conversation before. So, like, if I could be given a tablet every day that gave me all the nutrition I needed and I wouldn't feel hungry, I would take it. Where a leader wouldn't.
I wouldn't.
We have this conversation all the time. It sounds like you're on the same kind of wavelength as me, where it's like if someone says, eat this, is this, you get everything you need, you're healthy, you're going to succeed at you're going to have all the energy you need in the world. That's what you do. Where a leader's a big foodie. So she's like, I need the flavors. I need the difference. And I'm like, not really.
It's
like, that's why I've eaten oats every meal for like 2 years because it's like, I know it does the job.
But I traveled Europe for 6 years eating food.
That's what I mean. It's funny because it's definitely a two-mind thing. Like some people are big foodies and they just couldn't do that. Where me, I'm like, if someone could go, take this tablet every day.
I mean, look,
you get everything you need.
If I could take the tablet and then get all the nutrients that I possibly needed, that would be amazing. But I'd just go and eat a teaspoon of basil.
That's what I mean. You couldn't just have the tablet.
I couldn't just have the tablet. Like if it was like a movie where you woke up every morning and you took your vitamins and one of those vitamins was this is everything you need to like substantially make it through the day. To quench
your brain and your body and make it feel like it's satisfying.
But like, no, I love cooking. I love eating. And that's not just saying now, like I love eating. I do. I love eating. I love going out and I love cooking. But like, it's not necessarily just the flavors around the food. It's everything else that comes with it. And you can't replace that with a pill.
You can have a pill at dinner.
I get that. Like and it's so strange. After surgery, you know how like I feel like I'm searching for that one meal that hits the spot and I can't find it. And I just feel like I'm consistently let down by everything I eat at the moment because nothing is hitting that spot. So I'll try different things and I'm like, no, that wasn't it. Or it's more like, oh, hey, can I have a bite of that just to see if that's what it is that I'm missing sort of thing. So I just feel like this.
Just exploring, I guess, by the sounds of it, as you're trying to see what works and what makes your body feel a certain way. Yeah.
And it's nothing, it's good, but there's nothing that I'm eating that's hitting the spot. You know the spot I mean? Like you eat it and you get this rush of, oh, that's it. That's what I needed.
Did they not tell you? They removed the spot. You can no longer hit the spot.
The spot is gone.
Yeah.
Just a mouthful of the spot would be great, but
I'm going to create
a dribble of the spot. I'll take anything.
That tablet that you're going to create, Shannon, needs to be called the spot.
Yeah,
the spot tablet.
The spot tab. Yeah, I like it.
Oh, shit.
Funny because nothing, like I'll be like, oh, yeah, I'll have a bite of that or I'll try that. And then I was like, no, that's not it. That's not what I wanted. And then I'm like, no, well, that's my 3 bites done for the meal. So I'm good now. Thank you.
I think you're still so fresh. You're only 4 months out. I think that the spot quenching will come. Like you eventually are able to eat a little bit more and you're able to experience a little bit more flavors and all that sort of thing. It's a little bit different with a bypass because you will dump a lot more than what a sleever would. But like, so you've got to be super, like, don't take this with a grain of salt because I am not a dietitian.
Don't take this with a grain of salt.
But
take this with a grain of salt? You said don't take this with a grain of salt. No,
take this with a grain of salt because I am not a...
I thought you were like reverse psychology.
No, I was meant to say don't listen to me properly, but I was like, hang on, that's not right English. So we'll say take this with a grain of salt. Meaning like you've got to be careful with the amount of fats and the amount of oils and all that sort of thing. Whereas sleevers, we don't have that much of a restriction as what you do. So we've got a little bit more freedom in what we eat. Having said that, the only time that I've ever come close to actually like vomiting after a meal, that's a lie. I almost want to vomit after every meal. But the only time that I've ever wanted to vomit because of the food that I've eaten was because I had lamb chops and I was probably about maybe 3 months out from surgery. And I ate these beautiful little lamb chops. I had 1 lamb chops and like 2 beans. And I was like, that was amazing. And then I ended up hugging the bowl of the toilet for the whole rest of the night because it was just so fatty. So I just
Yeah.
imagine that that's what it is. It's like exacerbated for you guys who have had a bypass, because you've got to be super aware of those sorts of things. But
I think I'm sorry to cut you off. I think I'm fortunate because I had my gallbladder taken out prior to surgery. So I had my gallbladder taken out in 2015. So anything that looks oily or is too oily or too fatty, I would typically dump it in my own way even prior to having surgery.
Yeah.
So anything that looks too oily, or like, I think that's just habit for me now, in that I know, like, even Mum cooked beautiful roast pork and veggies for dinner, and you know, some of the veggies I was like, oh no, I won't eat those, thank you, just because I was like, no, I know that they won't sit well, sort of thing. And that's just, I think that part of it's become habit, which I'm fortunate about, and I don't have to probably endure the gallbladder problems that some people do after surgery. But like, I'm lucky in that respect.
Yeah.
But yeah, the oily and the fatty stuff, like so it doesn't actually, I just think, oh, no thanks, not for me.
So tell us, Amy, what's your goals moving forward? Like, what's some goals for you that you want to achieve, whether they're on the scales, in life? Any goals that you have?
I don't know. I think coming from such, nearly 170 kilos, hitting that 70 kilo loss, or to be under 100 kilos, that's always, I guess, the scale
digits.
goal.
Yeah.
Can I ask real quickly though, because you only weigh monthly, so when we asked you when you filled out your form, you said you didn't know what your weight was because you only weigh monthly, so you would have just gotten on the scales. How much have you lost to date?
So I'm down to 116 on the surgeon scale. So
Well done.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm back to
you're 16 kilos away from your goal of being
digits.
under 100 kilos.
So you're going to need a new goal soon. Do you have any apart from the double digits? Because that'll be gone in no time.
I'm keen to go shopping. It's really funny because you sort of see people like they're changing their clothes and stuff, but I've still got those clothes that I fitted into, last year, and then I didn't fit into them, and now I'm fitting back into them. So that's exciting. But I just want to be able to, I guess, live. I don't want to be on the sidelines anymore, and I want to be healthy, and it's so important for me as a single parent that I teach my kids the right things, especially around eating. And like, my son is 6, and he's half Tongan, so he's a big boy naturally, essentially, I suppose. I'm not a short person. I'm 5'10", 5'11", and he's always going to be a big boy. And for me, it's so important that he knows how to be healthy, and he knows how to fuel his body in due time with those proper foods that are going to help him. And I don't know, I try not to get emotional, but when it comes to my kids, it's a bit difficult. But
100%.
I want to be able to live, and I want them to be able to learn through me, and to not have to go through the things that I went through. I've been on a diet since I was 10 years old. And I've always been the big kid, and I've always been the duff of my friends. And I don't want that heartache for them. And I want them to have the best life possible, and I want them to be able to go on adventures and not have their body holding them back, or even back, because it's very much, when you're physically that big, okay, you can't do it. But what I find now is, yes, I can physically do stuff, but I've got to get my mind up to speed with what my body can actually do now.
And relearn it,
And because there's very much a big part of me that is holding back. And I want them so much to be able to, I just want to be able to show them everything, and I want to be around, and I want to live for them. And I need to be selfish and put myself first, and get those.
They're good goals. They're really good goals, because they're educating not just yourself but your children is
But I think they also ring very true to, well, for me personally, but I don't know about Shan, but like, we don't have kids. We're obviously trying for a kid, and we made a joke a couple of weeks ago that our kid would need to have the sleeve at birth, essentially, because the kid's doomed to have some sort of weight issues. But like, that's my biggest fear. Like, I don't mind that my kid's overweight, but I just want my
No.
kid to know what's right and what's wrong. I don't want them to be brought up in the diet culture. Like, there's just so much. I don't want my children to go through what we essentially went through, the bullying and the shaming, and like, all I want is to us to lead by example. And if the child is overweight, then the child's overweight. That's what it is. But like, us leading by example is the best thing that you can possibly do.
And just to be that, that role model to them. And like, my son's 6 and he's in grade 1 and he towers over the kids in his class and his age. And he's not only towering, like he's literally double their size. And he came home to me a couple of weeks ago and it just broke my heart because he came up to me and he said, "Mum, I'm going to go exercise." And I said, "Oh, cool. What for? Like, if that's what you want to do." And he's like, "Oh, well, so-and-so and so-and-so said at school that my belly's too big and I need to lose my belly." And I was just like, "I beg your pardon?" And that moment as a parent, it just breaks your heart. Like, I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do to help him in that moment. And I now know, I guess, how my mum felt in that time too. And it just, my heart sunk for him, and I was just like, hold on a minute, let's stop and rewind. If you want to exercise, you exercise for fun. And if you want to exercise, then that's what we'll do. But let me tell you this, you eat so you're healthy and strong, and you don't worry. If that means your belly is bigger than other people's, then that's okay. Because as long as you eat the right foods that make you healthy and strong, then that's all that matters. And I was like, geez, how do I, have I just told him the right thing or have I just upset him more? And you just question everything because
you don't know the magic words. You don't know what to say. That's the magic thing of being a parent, isn't it?
It's funny because Shannon and I we went for our morning walk this morning along the beach, and as we were walking back, so Shan's got 2 Labradors, and a lady walked past us and said, "Oh wow, you've got 2 very well fed dogs."
Yeah.
And we're like, "You're fat shaming our dogs."
Literally, we walked out and we're like, did our dogs just get fat
I was like,
shamed?
She just fat shamed our dog. Like, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Like, people are always going to have an opinion. And she probably didn't, like, and I don't know if we got more offended by that because of where we came from. And I was like, excuse me?
Yeah.
Like, we feed our dogs, like, healthy
like,
shit.
their coat looks great. They look healthy, look well loved. We're just like, excuse me?
Did you just
fat shame my dog?
But it's like, it doesn't
She
matter.
exercises every morning, okay?
I was like, they're the fittest and the healthiest they've ever been. Like, they never used to go for. But like, the point of that story was like, it sucks because obviously he's at the age where it's very impressionable and all of that sort of thing. But like, it doesn't matter what you do, somebody is always going to have an opinion, and it's just how you grow from those comments and how you move forward from them, I guess.
And it's a challenge, and I think it's something like he and I have had lots of discussions about more recently than others. But it's just reiterating that you can't control what other people think and say or do. But you can control what you can only control you. And I think even in saying that message to him, it just sort of hits home for me too, because I'm like, oh, hang on. These are the situations I can control. This is what's beyond my control, and that's stuff that I can't afford to stress about at this point in time. So, I don't know. I think just because both of my kids are going to be bigger than other kids, just because, of their culture and things like that.
Their genes and stuff like that, yeah.
Their genes, sorry, that's what I mean, their genes, yep.
Yeah.
And I don't want them... I don't want that heartache for them, and I just want them to be, I want them to be educated around it, and I want them to be healthy and happy, and I don't want them to be 10 years old and going on a diet or doing Weight Watchers or we've all been through the diet, so I don't want that life for them, and that's what part of this was about too, to be able to educate them and lead by example. Essentially, don't And hopefully by the time my daughter's old enough, she won't really remember me apart from who I am now. Whereas my son will have that sort of more vague memory of back when mum never used to do anything because she couldn't, sort of thing. So,
Well, I think that's a brilliant place for us to cap the episode off. That the fact that like you are the only person who is in control of your destiny, and you make the decisions for yourself.
Yeah, I'd love to touch back in later on and see how things are going, because obviously you're very fresh into the process. So we wanted to just get a kind of an idea of who you were, what led you here, and we can see you're a remarkable mum, and I think not only you but your kids are going to benefit from what you learn and who you become going forward.
And we're super excited to see where you end up in the next 6 months, in the next 2 years. It's
I'm excited. Once I get the magic 100, I'll just be like, right, this is it. Let's go now.
Mate, you're 16 kilos off that magic 100. You'll be there before you know it. But it's been an absolute pleasure sitting down and chatting with you. Thank you so much for being so raw and so real with us and opening up. And
it's another episode of Barry Banter. Well, yes, that is another episode of Barry Banter in the books. We hope you got a little something from that one.
Head on over to Facebook or Instagram and check us out, or go to baribanter.com where you can watch past episodes, give us feedback, and let us know who you want to hear from next.
We love you all, and as always, please stay beautiful.